The Bonds flying roofs opting for the left-hand side of the course, and a big crash in the middle.
Oh, massive misjudgment there by the black foils.
Yes, powered by nature.
It's got the action and suspense of a Hollywood blockbuster. It's got movie star backing. It's even got its own song.
Racing with impact. Give it all, everything.
Drama, glamour, and lots of money. All the things we love and hate about sailing.
We are SailGP.
SailGP is coming back to Auckland this weekend when teams from 13 countries in 50-foot foiling catamarans race at a top speed of 100 kilometres an hour. But could it be the last time?
We at SailGP would love to come back to Auckland long term. Right now that's not possible, but we're still talking.
I'm Sharon Brett-Kelly. Today on The Detail, sailing journalist Richard Gladwell on the F1 event of the water, sounding like he's on the other side of the world, but he's just across the harbour on Auckland's North Shore.
Can you hear me better?
Yeah, no, you're sounding good. Can you hear me all right?
Yep, no problem.
Where are you, Richard? I was a little bit confused because you said you're working in UK time.
European time, yeah. I'm living in Narrowneck, so I just work till about, usually about 2 a.m.
And what's the website called?
So it's sail-world.com. It's an international website, so I'm the New Zealand arm of that.
So is the America's Cup really your main focus?
It was, because SailGP's really come up this year. Yeah, they had a really good regatta in Fremantle. It sort of really delivered, and there was, obviously all the carnage. Boats were very fast in the Fremantle Doctors, so it was all looking pretty good.
What happened in Fremantle, has that generated quite a lot of excitement around this event now?
It was always there, but what was happening was that they were going into places where there was, wasn't very good winds, so the boats weren't foiling really that fast or anything like that. No one knew quite what to expect in Fremantle. If people remember what it was like in the America's Cup.
Stars and Stripes, 87, winning the America's Cup 4-0 against Kookaburra.
There's a whole lot of happy Americans here today, and I reckon Dennis Conner now could probably walk from the boat to the shore now without any trouble.
It was like that again, so there was plenty of action, short, sharp seas. These boats had never been sailed in conditions like that before. The other thing that happened there was that they were sailing just off the seawall in the Indian Ocean, but there were plenty of guys there that were shooting, amateur videos, so that was getting plopped up on YouTube. So that was like an appetizer for the main course. When the racing started, everyone knew that there was going to be plenty on.
And as you call it, the carnage of the Black Foils boat, that would have drawn a huge audience, wouldn't it? Because it was so dramatic.
Well, the weird thing with that was the aftermath of it. So we went out and were able to get what they call the ump app, which is what the umpire's using to call who was wrong in the incident.
And board, all the way, rudder's coming on. Hey, just going to try to keep the pace on a little here.
Okay, boundary 20.
Up here. Oh, we lost old transom.
We got that through on the Monday after the event had finished, and then ran a story about that, saying who was in the right and who was in the wrong. And it was pretty obvious from the umpire app that New Zealand guys were in the wrong.
There was a big crash. The Swiss took the back of the Kiwi boat off, just missing Pete Burling. Looking at the Swiss on board, it was a real thing. Pete got lucky, to be honest, and I can see why he was shaken up. The penalty went on New Zealand. The right call by the letter of the law. Could the Swiss have avoided the collision? That's the thing in my head.
There was a lot of other things that went on in there. That the Spanish broke their boat in training. And there was obviously the incident between New Zealand and Switzerland, which took both them out for, they got 90 seconds racing in the whole event. These boats are foiling fast. They'll nosedive. And it's exactly the same, really, as watching Formula One racing.
They are out of control. They just don't follow any rules, those guys. Yeah, that was loose. And
watch out, Kiwi, watch out down!
Come up.
There's a lot of debris in the water. Could everyone take caution?
Bulkhead's still sealed, so we're good.
And I've got no steerage.
There's not many passing lanes. And the most exciting part of the event is on what they now call the sprint leg, which is the leg from the start to the first mark.
We're racing here. What a start from Canfield. He's absolutely lit up. It's Spain, Great Britain and Switzerland in a drag race towards Mark 1, and the Spanish hold the inside. They should lead from here at Mark 1. And another little error from the United States. Splash down. Could lose a couple of places here.
So when they go around that mark, I mean, they're doing 80, 90 kilometres an hour. So that's getting pretty close to 45 to 50 knots territory. It's amazing that you can go that fast in a sailing boat at 4 times the wind speed.
It was a costly event for the Blackfoils, and there was talk that they might not be able to get the boat fixed in time for Auckland.
Yeah, no, that's the last couple of days they've come out and been quite open about it and shown what's happening with the repair.
Damaged their port aft quarter, so their stern, the back of the boat on the left-hand side, ripped out all the steering system, their rudder, so we're essentially rebuilding that whole aft quarter of the boat. Which
has been done partially in Southampton, and then all those parts are being air freighted to New Zealand, and then they go out to SeaTech, which is a composite engineering company in the marine field out in Henderson.
Is it the highest of high tech in sailing, what we're talking about here?
It's certainly on par with the America's Cup. The difference between the two is that the SailGP, it is a complete one design. In fact, the boat is now what they call plug and play. So they've engineered it so they can just drop a part out of the boat, put a replacement part back in, and it'll go straight away. Whereas the America's Cup, I mean, they're also using a lot of foiling technology, but that's all developed by the teams rather than by the league, as it happens in the SailGP. So all those systems are unique. They've got different ways of doing it apart from the supplied parts, which are the foil arm raising and lowering mechanisms. It's very, very, very complex and technical, and it is, on both of them are on par with Formula One. It's just like if they were racing Formula One and one design, cars, that would be SailGP. If you're racing Formula One and what you see now with team cars, that's America's Cup.
Why has the work for repairing the Blackfoils boat, why has that happened over in England and not here in New Zealand? Because I thought we had, top of the line businesses that did that kind of work.
Oh, we do, but SailGP is now out at 13 events around the world. So about 2 years ago, they had a facility up in Warkworth. They sold that to Rocket Lab, and then they set up a new facility in Southampton. But the idea with that is that they can do all the major parts, given that these boats are plug and play, and then just fire them off to wherever they've got to be. Half the time, that's going to be in Europe, so it's not really an issue. New Zealand's sort of the worst case because it's the end of the earth as far as they're concerned. But all they then do is bring them into a facility here that's got, very strong composite engineering skills. To be honest, I mean, if they had to get it repaired, it couldn't be done in a better place than New Zealand, just purely and simply because of the facilities are here, and it's also at the regatta venue.
Right turn. Yeah, boys! Nice work, team! Let's go! The boys are back!
That's the winning boat in Perth last month. So what are the chances the victory whoops will come from the Blackfoils this weekend?
I mean, they're as good as anyone's. They should be in the top 5. They'd be pretty disappointed if they weren't. The only caveat that they've got on it with that collision, and what they did was they got negative points out of it. So they scored 3 negative points. So what happens with SailGP is that you have event points. So in other words, you have the points there for the Auckland Championship, and that was the same for the Perth Championship, and after Auckland will be the same for the Sydney Championship. So they get event points there. They get from 10 through to 1, and that determines who gets that, who gets the prize money and how that's split up, and so on and so forth. And then what happens with the season is that they have event points. So they start building these points, and the objective of that is to get into the top 3 by the end of the season. And then in November, they had the grand final in Abu Dhabi. So they have an event there, but it doesn't matter who really wins or loses in that event. It's the top 3 in the season that go in there to contest a final. And that's got $2.5 million prize money US now on it. So that gets split between the top 3 boats.
And do you think New Zealand has a chance to get a top place overall?
Well, their problem now is instead of coming out of Fremantle with, say, 5 points, which would have been, 5th placing, they instead come out of that with -3. So they're going to be playing catch-up to the other 12 events in the year. They're the 13th of the 13 teams now on the points table. And the only ones there with negative points. And then at the top of the points table is Great Britain, who are the defending champions.
Can we just talk about the event here in Auckland, given what did happen in Perth? I mean, it's kind of like the pressure is on for Auckland to really turn it on, isn't it?
Well, it became a marquee event last year when they had it here, and it just blew everyone away right from the side of that huge grandstand filled with people. It was a record crowd they had here.
Look at the fans on the shoreline there. They'll be loving what they're seeing with that little manoeuvre.
And there's the finish line. The sold-out crowd will bring them home. They'd rather see black foils, but they're going to see green and gold as they come to the line. The Emirates winning moment goes the way of the Australians.
They were very lucky with the weather. Got good breeze there. It's racing in a very concentrated circuit there because you've got Stanley Point on one side of the harbour and the West Haven Seawall on the other, and the Harbour Bridge at one end, and it's a bit more open at the other. But it's a very concentrated race area, and it's really good to view. And everyone is just blown away about, that really set the benchmark for all the other events, and they weren't up at that level prior to Auckland. I mean, now they realise the value that grandstand adds, and what it does as a backdrop for the racing. And the photo of the year was basically shot in Auckland. Not just the SailGP, for the photo images of the year was shot with the black foils heading into this wall of people in the grandstand. I mean, it's spectacular stuff.
Because we're talking about a 10,000 seat grandstand, and you're paying $200 per seat per day. Would that be the biggest grandstand on the circuit?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, given that they got a sellout on it last year, they've actually increased the capacity. So
all we need is some wind and some really good weather, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, we don't need what we've just been having. Preferably a good either southwesterly wind blowing or a nor'easter.
Who pays for this event, Richard?
Well, basically, the teams have an operational amount of $10 million a year, which they have to carry through sponsorship. And then the whole event's owned by the SailGP League, and that's backed by Larry Ellison, who's the Oracle software fame. And Russell Coots is the CEO of that. But what's happening with the teams is when it started off, Larry Ellison basically gave the 6 teams that were in it initially $5 million to, get through the first season. And they owned all those teams. And then progressively what they've been doing is adding teams into it and then selling either the team completely or selling equity in it. So these equity splits have become quite interesting because every time that one happens and a new shareholder comes in, all the teams turn around and say, well, if that's the going price, then this is what we're really worth now. So those prices just rocket up. So the first ones were selling 6 years ago now for $5 million. Now the league wouldn't sell a team for $55 million US.
Wow.
So that's a huge capital appreciation. And then initially there were various team ownership models in there, but they were likely shareholding in a public company, so they could sell shares off to other players to come in and people would sell down their shares and obviously keep an interest. And so you've got a lot of these Hollywood A-listers, you've got sports leagues coming in and that sort of thing. And the reason they're keen on SailGP is that they can look at the numbers they're getting for it and seeing where the growth is and then see the income streams on that, which are familiar with them because they've invested in US football teams and UK football teams and that sort of thing. So they know there's merchandising stream there's a sponsorship stream, there may be a prize money stream, and there's a whole lot of other income streams that they can attach to that. So that's where they get the return on the investment. Plus, obviously, the signage stream, which is the sponsorship they can sell commercially.
Who owns the Black Foils?
They're one of two teams now that are still owned by the league. The other one's Spain. The expectation is that they'll be probably sold within a year or two because they're the top teams in the league. They'll attract the biggest price. So there may be private shareholding tied up in there with, the Black Foils between Peter Burling and Blair Cheek, but, that's not public knowledge and there's no way we can really find that out either.
So if they go on the market next year, could they be worth more than those other boats are worth now, so more than 55 million?
I would think they would go for about 75 million.
Who would be interested in the Black Foils?
It's an international team, so they only do one regatta in New Zealand, but when they're there on the rest of the circuit, they're there in USA, New York, all the cities they go to in Europe. What happens with that is people that either own it can bring their VIPs and friends along to the event, and that's got worth something for them commercially. Or if it's a commercial company, they've got their signage on the boat, and again, that's worth something. They know what the value of that is, and compared to what the value they're getting on other sports teams. So it's quite hard for people in New Zealand to understand because it's quite a foreign concept, but overseas they understand it very well. The sports leagues investors like the SailGP because they think that it's a cheap investment for when you look at the growth that's there and what they're potentially going to get out of it and what their shareholding will go up to, and then what they can on-sell, either the whole shareholding or part of it. The league talk quite openly about how much they think the teams are worth.
If it's such a big global event now, and if Auckland is kind of the showcase for it, why are we hearing that it might not come back here?
I mean, SailGP have never made any secret of the fact that they've got a bigger queue for venues than they have venues available. So they're ultimately, they will grow to, they're up to 13 now. They're going, I think, to 14 in season 7 until they get to 20 venues, maybe 18, and then carry on from there. So when you've got that situation, it's just normal market forces apply. So I don't know what Perth paid for SailGP there that's just completed. They were certainly very pleased with, A, what they paid, and secondly, what they thought that the business impact was worth. The difficulty in New Zealand is that you're not dealing in a market that treats it or looks at its value in New Zealand dollars. It's talking about either US dollars or euros. So you automatically got that currency disadvantage when you come to bid against other venues. Obviously, in something like SailGP, the way it looks in Auckland is a huge selling point because when they go out and sell to other venues, they show these clips, and of course they show this massive grandstand with these boats hurtling in towards it, doing incredible speeds and literally throwing the spray on the spectators' feet. So that's the attraction of it for SailGP. So that's why you go for a venue like Auckland. The problem with Auckland is that they find it very difficult to match the prices that are being offered overseas. So it becomes a commercial equation as well. What you're looking at is visibility on TV plus what the value you can get out of the event in terms of compensation, and then that sort of gives you really the answer. So when they go into an event in the Middle East like they went into with Abu Dhabi, they might be getting huge money there for it. But the problem they've got is it doesn't look very good on TV because the wind there for the first day was very light. And the second day it was slightly lighter. It was certainly nothing like Fremantle and nothing like Auckland.
Do you know how much Auckland pays to host the event?
Well, we know last time that Envy paid 5.4 million New Zealand for 4 events. So that was the 2 that were on in Christchurch and the 2 that were on in Auckland. That's basically a starting point. I mean, that price point might have doubled. Who knows? There'll be a negotiation going on with it. And then there's other issues coming into it relating to what, the local organisers want to do with it to be viable for them. And particularly when you've got a council and government bodies coming in there as to what they are demanding. And then whether that's acceptable to SailGP is another matter as well.
What's your feeling, Richard? Do you have a sense of what is going to happen after this year?
If you look back at the New Zealand deal, how it was originally couched, I mean, it was going to be initially 1 event in Christchurch, 1 event in Auckland, and then 1 in Christchurch and 1 in Auckland. So with SailGP, New Zealand hasn't got a particularly good history with them. the first one in Christchurch, they had the issue with the dolphins.
Sir Russell Coutts has launched an extraordinary attack a day after SailGP racing was cancelled because of endangered dolphins.
Another example of New Zealand being handcuffed by unprecedented layers of bureaucracy and red tape.
Just to backtrack, so what was supposed to happen the second time round was that it was supposed to come to Auckland. There were issues on Wynyard Point with the excavation that had been done there and the gas that were releasing, and Auckland Council wouldn't let them go on there for environmental reasons and safety reasons. So they went back to Christchurch and they lost a day because it was the dolphins spotted on the racecourse before the start. So then it came back to Auckland, and the last one in Auckland was, very good. But you can see from what's gone on now that SailGP are pretty used to coming up with issues in New Zealand that they don't encounter elsewhere. So that's sort of really why you've got to look at the Auckland and New Zealand situation and realise that they're not a particularly easy place to deal with. We've seen it happen twice with the America's Cup where it's not easy to deal with. That's why the events are really struggling to come here. I'm sure they've got a round the world race coming in 2027. But the big events like the America's Cup and SailGP, New Zealand just makes it hard for itself. New Zealand's got to get realistic with these events and, particularly sailing events, and just start realising they're in a very competitive situation. They don't hold anywhere near the number of cards that they think, and there's plenty of on offer from outside. And of course, SailGP have got a lot of ownership in the event, and they're very specific about how they want their event to be portrayed, both to the live audience and the TV audience. Unless you can deliver on that without, too many, we want you to do this, and you can only do it this way, and you can only be open here and there and everything else. They just say, look, we've got better deals on the table, we'll go there. The trouble with it from a negotiating point of view is that the people in New Zealand that are doing it, they don't really know what cards SailGP are holding. And it gets to the point where they can decide to play those cards and just go elsewhere. And all that'll happen will just be a phone call going in saying, look, thanks for your time, but I'm sorry, we're going to Melbourne.
Is it Auckland Council and the government?
Well, it depends on what you call the government. Basically, the government is MB. It's their major events. So they're really the ones that hold the cards for New Zealand. The political government have got to step up in terms of this bed levy that, Wayne Brown's been very keen to get in for several years. The $5.4 million that I mentioned was paid last time entirely by MB. Whether that's going to be the case again, who knows? They've got, improved budgets for bringing events to New Zealand, but they're trying to do it on New Zealand prices. And it's not competitive to do that.
That's it for today. The Detail is a newsroom production supported by RNZ and NZ On Air. This episode was engineered by Mark Chesterman and produced by Shalise Tansey and Alexia Russell. Thanks to Richard Gladwell, I'm Sharon Brett Kelly. Mā te wā.